Welcome to Understory Files. Every headline tells you what happened. But beneath every headline, there's always another layer, the quiet details that explain how an ordinary day can suddenly turn into something unimaginable. This story begins in the quiet landscapes of southern Utah, a place known for its open skies, red rock deserts, and long hiking trails that stretch for miles through remote terrain. For many people, it's the kind of place you visit to escape the noise of the world. But in early March, something happened here that left an entire community shaken. 3 women would lose their lives, and the person accused of committing the crimes would later tell investigators something chilling. He said it had to be done. The story began unfolding when authorities in Utah received reports that something was wrong near a popular hiking area known as Coxcomb Trailhead. 2 women had gone out that day. It was supposed to be a simple outdoor trip, a walk through the trails. The kind of outing thousands of people take every year without thinking twice about their safety. But when family members arrived later that afternoon, they found something deeply disturbing. The 2 women were dead. Authorities quickly identified them as Linda Dewey, 65, and Natalie Graves, 34. The 2 were related, an aunt and niece who had been spending time together. For investigators, the discovery raised immediate questions. What had happened on a quiet hiking trail in the middle of Utah? And who was responsible? While law enforcement began searching the area and gathering evidence, another discovery soon expanded the case into something far more troubling. Not far away, authorities began investigating the disappearance of another woman. Her name was Margaret Oldroyd. She was 86 years old. When deputies responded to her home to perform a welfare check, they noticed something that immediately raised alarms. There were signs of a struggle inside the house. Investigators reported seeing blood marks in the front room. Even more disturbing were the drag marks leading out of the home. According to investigators, it appeared the woman had been moved using a wheelbarrow. Soon after, Oldroyd's vehicle was found abandoned near the same hiking trail where the other 2 victims had been discovered. Suddenly, investigators were no longer looking at one crime scene. They were dealing with what appeared to be a connected series of violent events. As the investigation intensified, authorities began tracking a vehicle linked to the victims. Technology quickly became a crucial part of the case. The vehicle's key fob allowed investigators to identify its location. Automated license plate readers, systems placed along highways to track passing vehicles, began providing additional data. Together with real-time vehicle tracking systems, investigators were able to follow the trail across state lines. Eventually, the search led to Pagosa Springs, Colorado. There, authorities located and arrested a 22-year-old man named Evan Miller. According to officials, Miller was taken into custody on the morning of March.
Authorities say Miller told them he committed the crimes because he needed money and transportation. In statements included in the charging documents, investigators say Miller described the killings as something that had to be done. But at the same time, he reportedly told officers that he did not like to do it. For many people following the case, those words raised unsettling questions. What leads someone to believe such actions are necessary? According to investigators, Miller told them he had spent the previous night inside a shed in the town of Lyman, Utah. From there, authorities allege he entered the home of one of the victims and waited inside. Investigators claim he remained hidden until the woman sat down to watch television. At that moment, they say he carried out the attack. Authorities believe the suspect then moved the victim's body and took her vehicle. But according to investigators, he later decided he didn't want that car. Documents suggest Miller allegedly abandoned the vehicle and continued searching for another. That search eventually led him to the hiking trail. Investigators believe Miller saw Linda Dewey and Natalie Graves arriving in a white Subaru. What happened next would turn the quiet trail into the center of a major investigation. Authorities allege the suspect attacked both women before moving their bodies into a nearby ditch. Investigators say he then took credit cards belonging to the victims and used them to purchase gasoline. As the story spread, communities across Utah and beyond reacted with shock. The victims appeared to have had no connection to the suspect. According to investigators, there was no evidence suggesting the women knew Ivan Miller before the attacks. For many people, that detail made the case even more difficult to understand. These were not targeted disputes between people who knew each other. They were strangers. And that randomness made the tragedy feel even more unsettling. Authorities also discovered that Miller had previously faced legal trouble in another state. Court records show that in December of the previous year, he had been booked into a jail in Davis County, Iowa. Those charges reportedly included burglary, theft, marijuana possession, and unlawful possession of a weapon. At the time of his arrest in Colorado, Miller had been scheduled to appear in court in Iowa. Related to those earlier charges, instead, he now faces 3 counts of aggravated murder in Utah. For investigators, the case is still unfolding.
Authorities say the investigation into the triple homicide remains ongoing as they work to reconstruct the timeline of events and understand how the crimes occurred. Meanwhile, the families of the victims are left grappling with an unimaginable loss. 3 lives, 3 families, 3 stories that ended far too soon. For communities in southern Utah, the case is a painful reminder that even the most peaceful places can sometimes become the center of tragedy. Quiet hiking trails, small towns, ordinary homes. These places often feel safe because they are familiar. But cases like this remind us how quickly normal life can be disrupted. And they also remind us why investigations, technology, and cooperation between law enforcement agencies are so critical. Because in this case, the same systems that help track vehicles and monitor highways played a major role in bringing the suspect into custody. Without them, the outcome might have been very different. For now, the legal process is just beginning. Investigators continue to examine evidence, prosecutors prepare their case, and the courts will ultimately determine what happens next. But beyond the legal proceedings, stories like this leave a lasting impact. They force us to confront difficult questions about safety, human behavior, and the unpredictable moments that can change lives forever. And they remind us that behind every headline are real people, real families, real lives. Lives that deserve to be remembered not only for how they ended, but for the moments they lived before tragedy struck. This is Understory Files. And beneath every headline, there's always another story. If you want more real investigations that uncover the deeper layers behind major events, subscribe to Understory Files, and we'll see you in the next story.